Human health is the biggest one for me. How they're all interlinked from the soil to the plant to the animal to the human, and they're all identical really. Like there's a few little differences in the middle, but pretty much the same. So if I treat my farm bad, like, do I want to eat the product that comes off that? Probably not. Like, I don't want to have crap food. Like, I would prefer to have a nourishing, healthy food and be able to be proud of that product and be able to pass that on to the consumer.
The Biological Farming Roundtable podcast helps farmers explore innovative, low-input, regenerative and profitable farming systems. The Biological Farming Roundtable is sponsored by Nutrisoil, an award-winning biological liquid fertiliser made from a big worm farm. Nutrisoil's purpose is to empower farmers to produce life-enriching food. My name is Callum Lawson. I work at Nutrisoil. I envisage a future where farmers are rewarded for producing nutrient-rich foods and consumers have this easily available to them. Hello everyone, Nicola Maddock here from Nutrisoil. Today I'm here with Callum Lawson from North Central Victoria in Avenel, and we're on a grazing property. Thank you for being on the podcast today, Callum.
Thank you very much for having me. It's definitely inspiration to be part of this. I've always listened to it and enjoyed your podcast. So yeah, thanks very much for having me.
Oh, that's awesome. Now people can learn from you. So tell us about, you manage a couple of different farms, all grazing properties.
Yes.
Let's learn about them.
So where we are currently, we're at Avenel in North Central Victoria. We've got 3,000 acres here, run a Angus self-replacing herd of about 550 breeders. We join in September, October, 6-week joining, trying to get that calving period as tight as we can and match our calving period with our peak and highest nutritional value of feed. I've been here for approximately 2 years. I took over from the previous manager, and it was very conventionally run. I think there was 10 mobs. We're back to 2. Trying to move cattle as often and as frequently as possible, allowing for the rest time and working it out so we're matching our stocking rate to carrying capacity. Also, I share farm with my dad up in Highlands in the Strathbogie Ranges. We just have a small 100 head breeding herd up there. Everything we breed up there then goes down to another property down at Tallarook, which is paddock to plate under Habby's How Beef. We send approximately 8 to 10 animals a week between 450 kilos and 530 kilos a week to butchers throughout Melbourne and Broadford. We have been putting multi-species in there and trialling more of the 1 or 2 mob grazing on 500 acres down there with pretty good weight gains, and rest periods down there is definitely starting to pay off.
Is that the 3? So you've got the property here that you manage,
yep.
And then you share farm with your dad.
Yep, and then those ones then go to Tallarook, to the other share farm. So
okay.
Yeah, that's the Habby's How Beef. So
yeah. So you have a paddock to plate from those 2 farms.
Yeah. They contribute to it. So we've got start to finish product there. We're not just finishing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you manage the paddock to plate?
I'm pretty lucky, very fortunate really, to have had a mentor, Scotty McKay, who does most of that side of things. He goes and talks to the butchers and is very good with that side of things. We sort of focus on the animals and growing the grass for the animals, and then he goes and deals with the butchers and the things they want and don't want. There's always a high demand for it, but they're not willing to pay the premium price. So they want the good quality product, but they only want to pay the boxed meat price. So it's a bit of a juggling act at times, just trying to negotiate with them of what we can give them and what they want.
So you do need to have some pretty good negotiation skills
Most
to
definitely.
do the paddock to plate.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And is it more profitable for you to manage selling your meat this way? Or
Yeah, so in the last 2 years, it probably hasn't been as profitable, but this year now we're probably 15 to 20% in front of where we would be in the markets, just because.
of course, the market's dropped so much. So your market hasn't dropped.
Yeah, well, it has, but it's dropped and we've stayed a bit in front of it. So we can ask for a little bit more now because the butchers are used to paying a little bit more. So yeah, we haven't dropped it as much, but still, they still haggle with the price, of course. But it's definitely a challenge, that one.
Yeah, okay. So the 3 different farms, on this farm, it's just beautiful. Like when I drove in, it was just absolutely stunning. Yeah, lots of hills and creeks and biodiversity around.
Yeah, so we've got 3 little seasonal creeks. One's semi-permanent and the other 2 are seasonal. Very undulating. We've got some steeper granite country, some steeper ironstone country, just some nice rolling sort of flats and well, not exactly flat, but what I call flat. I grew up in the hills, so
not like the hay plains.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not used to that sort of flat.
Yeah.
They're flat for me. It's pretty annual or sort of low successional plant dominated farm here at the moment. Anything that has got good perennial species is a real standout. This time of year you can see green paddocks for miles amongst all the silvergrass that's dead. That's always the first thing to go off, which we've got plenty of it, and we've got a fair issue there, but we'll slowly chip away at that, paddock by paddock.
What's your rainfall here?
So, we're about 630 mils here.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
And you took over 2 years ago, so it would have been some pretty good years. Like we had some good rainfall years.
Yeah. So
how was the condition when you took it over?
So when I took over, there wasn't any feed here at all. It was well overstocked. It was 2021. It was a really good year. Everywhere else around us was plentiful of feed, and the numbers here were far too great for what it could carry. So they ended up selling nearly half the herd and changing the calving season all at once. So it was a big hurdle and took a bit of working out and maths and trying to work out what is actually going to work, and had a bit of help with some consultants and RCS, and we worked out what was actually going to suit us here rather than what everyone thinks the area should be. Like everyone says you should be autumn calving, and other people say you should be spring calving, but so we actually worked it out of when we have our maximum growth and where it's at its peak nutrient wise, and tailored our calving to suit that. It's our first year this year of that. Our calves are probably average 200 kilos and then 6 months old. I'm pretty happy with that. They look amazing. So I feel like I have done something well there, so it's always nice.
That's a big change to come in just say, right, we're just going to change the whole system. Like, how did they feel about that when you did that?
Well, originally I was like, we need to get rid of one calving because there was split calving, and they were just keeping all the empties and then just joining them again as a spring or joining them again as an autumn. So I just said, we'll keep all the autumns and then sell all the springs, just try and simplify it and get some fertility back in the paddocks, and stop overgrazing before we can start building the numbers again when we've got the rotation right. So the cattle numbers, when you're keeping 90% of your heifers, they breed very quickly and they build very quickly, and definitely all of a sudden you've got nearly too many again, like without even realizing it. So to answer your question, they were very great people to work for. They are great people to work for, and willing to put their trust in me. I'd done a little bit of this, not a huge amount, but a little bit with Dad, and made a big difference. Just changing from 4 or 5 mobs to 1, and then same principle, just on a bigger scale, and that changed here massively. Last year we went from in November 21 we had over 10 mobs, and then by sort of February 2022 we had 2 mobs, and then we cut it to 1 mob and the bull mob. So all of last year we pretty well had 1 mob of like 840 animals going around the farm. So easy to figure out how much feed you've got in front of you. Every paddock's resting but the one that they're in. It's so much more simple. Like, you don't have to think about 3 different mobs and taking them and getting the rest recovery times right. This year we had to mix it up a bit because obviously joining again and heifers, so you've got to put different pools with heifers. So went to 3 mobs for a little while, we're back to 2 now. So hopefully I can keep it at 2, and then every now and then split to 3, but the more we do that, hopefully the more paddocks I'll have to actually put them around, so it won't be a big issue.
The market would definitely have been in your favour, 21, 22.
Yeah.
They would have been pretty happy with your decision to sell.
Yeah, I think the first 2 months we sold well over $1 million worth of cattle. So it was a pretty good start. Made me look pretty good, but I said, I'm like, this isn't going to happen every year, unfortunately. It would be nice.
Yeah.
Once you've sold them, you can't get them back again. This year is a bit of a different story. We'll go to see what weaner sales do in January, but it definitely the last 2 years has been very forgiving in the market. Yeah.
But they would have seen, and you have seen the change in pasture growth.
Oh, massively. Yeah. When I got here, it was literally like this table. It was just.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah, like it's
because it was high rainfall. They just must have had so much stock on.
I think there was 1,400 animals or something when I got here. So definitely way too many. And just that first year of just letting it recover with a few less than it probably should have or could have had, and being able to do that and not have to worry about the profit in the first year because we'd already made so much. That was a big relief. Just letting it actually grow when it needed to, rather than just having to keep grazing it because you've got the mouths there that you need to feed. That made a massive difference, I think. And out there now, it looks pretty dry, but we've got a hell of a lot of feed. Like, we should have enough to get us through easily till March, April for the numbers that we've got. So, that's a nice feeling.
Yeah, and good ground cover, so you're not going to have, all those hot winds. You're not going to have erosion.
Exactly.
You're going to be, still food for your microbes.
Mm-hmm.
Less evaporation.
Yeah.
I mean, rainfall. It's all going to.
It all
keep
helps.
Building, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I know you've got 3 farms, but getting to know you, I know that there's a whole reason why you farm this way. Not only because it's profitable, but also for many other reasons. So, what drives you to farm more regeneratively?
Human health is the biggest one for me. How they're all interlinked, from the soil to the plant to the animal to the human, and they're all identical, really. Like, there's a few little differences in the middle, but pretty much the same. So if I treat my farm bad, like, do I want to eat the product that comes off that? Probably not. Like, I don't want to have crap food. Like, I would prefer to have a nourishing, healthy food and be able to be proud of that product and be able to pass that on to the consumer. That's really what drives me, is be producing a healthy product.
And you've always been a farm kid, always wanted to be a farmer? Always
wanted to be a farmer, yeah. I was always discouraged to be a farmer because there was no money in farming. And when I was growing up, and anyway, I went away and did a diesel mechanic apprenticeship, and never lost the passion. Most weekends I'd try and get back home when I could, and then I was brought back, and I was like, I've had enough of this, and went back mechanicking at home. And then the more time I spent at home, the more I sort of worked on other people's farms, and just transitioned back into farming, really. I was sort of 50-50, and then as soon as this job came up, I'm like, well, this is a perfect opportunity to go whole hog, and haven't looked back. Definitely passionate and excited.
And that mechanical knowledge would help you so much.
Super, I'll be lost without it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I've got to watch out people don't poach you.
I don't
oversell you too much here.
I don't like promoting that I'm a mechanic for that reason, because I don't like fixing things anymore.
Yeah, okay.
Because you always get the people that someone's already had a go at and made a mess of it, and it's always the hard ones.
Yeah, but you've got to have that skill in farming,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just an
there's
awesome
always
skill
another
to
challenge.
have. Yeah. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the challenges here, but what are the main challenges on this farm that you're working with?
I feel the organic matter is probably our biggest one. We have probably around 1.2% organic matter in most paddocks.
Is that organic matter or carbon?
Sorry. No, that's carbon.
Okay.
Yeah. 1.2%.
But it still translates to low organic matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then on top of that, we've got no sulfur showing up in the soil tests or totals. There's a little bit, but not a lot. Calcium, I think calcium function everywhere, state, nationwide, is probably an issue. Seeing soil pits all over the place. The calcium function is an absolute killer. You might have a good pH, but doesn't mean your calcium is actually functioning. But
why do you think that is?
It's a slow, immobile mineral. Our biology is missing. That's the missing link in most things, probably. But without the correct conditions, you're not going to get the right biology to actually get it there. So you need to get some calcium out. It might not be hundreds of tons of lime, but just might be a bit of foliar, little and often calcium, just to tickle the system to get it to work. But seeing that everywhere is mind-blowing. Just it's a common problem. Yeah.
Do you see where someone's got really good biological activity and good organic matter that it's less of a problem?
Yeah, definitely. And then your pugging and all of that sort of all follows through. Like it recovers so much quicker when you've got good organic matter, then you've got good biological activity, and you've got good mineral function and water cycle. It all comes hand in hand. And every paddock you sort of go in every year, if you've improved it, like it feels softer under your feet, your water infiltration is getting better, your biology is obviously getting better. Like you can feel it, like you can tell.
Okay, so your challenges, we've got those. What are your goals?
My big goals here are to really focus on fencing and building that carbon cycle, or carbon in the soil and getting it cycling again. Erosion, so the erosion, we've done natural sequence farming, so we're trying to hold the water in the landscape as much as we can. With contours, we've got approximately 4 kilometres of contours at the moment. Hopefully that'll soon be 7. We've got 4 leaky weirs, probably another one going in another couple of weeks. Trying to get ground cover to keep the water and armour the soil and help the water actual infiltrate into the soil with roots and the plants is probably a big thing. Carbon with roots and biology and bioferts and multi-species crops. Fencing, we've got about 70 paddocks at the moment. My aim is in the next 2 years to get it to about 110.
Do you like fencing?
I don't mind fencing, but all the big ones, like the single wires, are so easy to do when you're splitting a paddock in half. The bigger ones, like when we're fencing out waterways, we'll probably do half and get the contractor to do half and try and make it most efficient. It's more of a time thing for us. We don't have a huge amount of time for fencing. We've always got something on the go. So it would be nice to do it all, but it's just not achievable with limited staff. Yeah.
When I look at all of the things that you're doing to pull all of this together, like to achieve those goals, there's kind of a few different areas, and I want to talk about all of them. So natural sequence farming, grazing management, multi-species, bioferts, you've got a tow and fert, worm products, compost, extracts, you're doing soil and tissue testing, and you're part of Vic No-Till board.
Yeah.
You know? So I can see there's lots of different things you're pulling together here to achieve those goals. So let's start talking about them. My first question is, it's nearly like there's a list here, but what have you done it in the sequence you wanted it to? And what would you recommend would be the right sequence to do all of these?
That's a great question. I feel like I probably haven't focused enough on splitting up paddocks. I have started, definitely, but I probably should have put more emphasis on that at the start and really built that up early, and then everything else will flow on from there. So wire and water, which is my next big thing. I get sort of a bit nerdy about the soil, so I get so focused on making bioferts and compost.
Much more exciting.
Yeah, so much more exciting than fencing. But realistically, as a tool, I should have definitely, I'd start with that, and then to really help speed the process along, then you bring the biology and your bioferts and all that stuff, like just to, it'll speed the process up for sure.
So number one, grazing management.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Did you do an RCS course quite early on?
Yeah, so I did that in February of 2022, but I'd done a holistic grazing course with Graham Hand and Colin Lawson in 2017.
Yeah.
And that's really what got me hooked in this. Yeah, I went from very much conventional to this does not make sense, and now this new way of farming is just common sense. It's full circle, just unreal. Yeah.
And RCS helped you a lot with when to sell, what to sell, how to get your calving times together.
The calving times, the selling is flexible. It has to be flexible if you're going to do this, because you've got to make sure you're carrying like your stocking rate to your carrying capacity. So definitely you can't be fixed on when you're going to sell. You've got to have a cull mob, or even if they're in the same mob, have a first, second, third sort of cull list ready to go if you need to. You can do that by fetal aging when you're preg testing, or just cows you don't like for a specific reason, like it'd either be structural or a little bit crazy, or that's probably flexibility with that. But the RCS did teach that too. So
was it the 7-day course you did with them?
Yeah, that, and then I had Nick Kentish come out and do a few days consulting with me, and we sort of worked out a few different paddock plans and worked out that optimum time of calving, and it was fantastic. Yeah, great guy. Got a lot of time for him, and the low stress stock handling course I did with him as well. He's very much an inspiration to me. Yeah.
And what about KLR marketing? Do you think you've got enough knowledge now, or is that an interest?
I have done KLR.
You have as well.
So I try and apply those principles as much as I can.
They kind of go together.
They
RCS,
definitely
low stress
all
stock
three,
handling, KLR.
And I think if you're missing one, you're probably missing out on a bit of the market, or doing yourself an injustice nearly. The KLR, I've put it in a little bit of a practice here. I've used it more at home to go, is it actually worth carrying these through, or is it worth just selling? And last year was a prime example of where we should have been selling and not keeping to go to the butcher shop. But then if you lose that butcher shop job, then you don't have it this year where it's actually in front. So you had to sort of take a bit of a hit the last couple of years to make the profit in the worse years. Hopefully, if we can market our beef a bit better as a regenerative actual beef, hopefully there will be a demand. You can't force products down people's throat. They've got to want it. But that would be a goal in that business for sure.
Well, the world is changing, I mean, 20 2050, we're going to be supposedly carbon neutral. Like, you think about the future of our kids, it's going to look very different.
Very different,
isn't
yeah.
it?
And 2030, like, will come around quick enough.
Yeah.
And that's the first set of changes. So I think anyone that's sort of not thinking about it is going to get left behind.
Yeah.
And it'll be here, like, blink of an eye.
I absolutely agree with you. All right, so grazing management, you think number one, and you did those 3 courses.
Yep.
Out of your suite of things that you do, what would you have done next in an ideal world, and did you do that?
Natural sequence farming, I would probably do. I think the number one course I'd do if you're running stock, low stress stock handling.
That's number one.
Yeah, I reckon just the way the consumer is, and heading, and for the stock itself, just I really rate that, and I think there's not enough of it. That's really important. And our stock are like, you can't pat them, but geez, they're quiet because of it. And like, you spend that time, they're a bit flighty, you spend a bit extra time with them, and you can work them with them. It's safer for everyone. They put on more weight. Like, it's science. Like, it is actually in front of your eyes. Our weaning, like, we gained 1.2 kilos a day in weaning last year just because of this LSS stuff. Like, the year before, we lost weight. So
give us a snippet of what a strategy in low stress stock handling is that you might use every time you have the stock. What's the main thing?
Pretty much the opposite to what you are used to doing.
Okay.
So pressure on, pressure off, and really observing the flight zone of the animal is super important, like, to get them to move. And when you've got too much pressure, they'll often go the wrong way, and then you'll get angry, and then you'll be angry at the stock, so things get worse. So I feel like if you just take a chill out, like, just relax, take a deep breath, turn around, whatever you got to do, walk away and come back again. It makes a huge difference. If you've got a bit of, like, built up anger, the cattle are gonna feel it, like, definitely.
Yeah, wow.
Or the sheep.
Could you use that could you transfer that into people as well? Like,
oh, definitely. Yeah, positive attitude with people and communication, and being clear, and that definitely. I'm probably better with stock than I'm with people, but I'd like practice. Dad sort of started calling me the cow whisperer just to try and wind me up a bit, I think. But...
Well, we call Darren the worm whisperer.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. He herds worms. All right, so number one was low stress stock handling.
Yeah, then the grazing. And then the natural sequence farming.
Grazing before KLR?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Yeah. I think those 3 do need to go together, but the KLR for profit, definitely. But if you're talking profit, yeah, definitely. But the natural sequence for your landscape, that's got to be in the top 3, I reckon. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did, when we were just out on that paddock, I was like, it's softer here, and you went, look where the contour is. That's where we're directing the water.
Yeah. So it's coming through the profile rather than it's just gone over the top of it.
Yeah. And do you think because you're in such hilly country and you've got these creeks, it's really important for this land? Yeah,
try and keep it where, because it's just a drainage system otherwise. Yeah. And we've got some creeks that are 6 meters deep, like, that are just washed out that much. Just the creek's only this, a foot at the bottom, and like they're 6 meters from erosion. So imagine the water would have been up in that profile for the plants to get, and now you're not going to get a plant to go through that because there's all sorts of barriers in the way. How many, I don't know.
A snippet other than contours, what other things are you doing from learning the natural sequence farming? I'm
not really focused on weeds, but let all plants grow is quite extreme. But if you focus on the weeds, you're going to grow more. Prime example, like at home, like I remember being picked up by the helicopter that was spraying, taken around the farm, and then being dropped off to school by it because it was cool. Like, it was obviously fuel was cheap back in the 90s, and you can do that. But we've been spraying with the helicopter there for Patterson's Curse for 20 plus years. it has made a little difference, but there's still paddo there.
They keep coming back.
It keeps coming back. It hasn't fixed the problem. How much money we've wasted on that, I don't know. So I did a trial in 2018 with 1 kilo of copper per hectare, just in the boom spray or boomless nozzle, I think it was. I put a little bit of biology out. I didn't really think about it too much. Probably did a bit of harm, but I mean, we'll see. It seemed to work. Our paddo went from probably 100 plants to 1 per hectare. So I feel like if you actually look at the plant and what it's trying to tell you, there is a story there. There's probably a deficiency of something, or you can replace it with something more desirable.
Yeah, and that's its job. It's bringing it up.
Correct.
And
making it plant available.
Depositing it. Yeah, back on the top and making it plant available. Yeah. Okay. So that was natural sequence farming. Okay, it was the contours, letting all weeds grow. Yeah,
leaky weirs. So just trying to slow that water flow down in the creeks, not dam it by any means, but just try and slow it down and let it seep through rather than rush through. We put a leaky weir in with Stuart. Stuart Andrews came for a week here. I was very lucky to actually have him one-on-one for 3 days before they held the course here, so we actually had some stuff for them to look at. And the creek was flowing, or it's not really a creek, it's like a little stream. Before we started, it was flowing, and then we put the weir in, and then we went down to the same spot, and it's still flowing. So there's still obviously water going under it and through it. And then there's also water out of that then spreading out onto the ridges, which is pretty cool. So you're actually not just putting it down the stream into the neighbours, you're actually distributing it on your farm, and then it'll end up back in that creek anyway. But it just takes a lot longer to get there, so your plants will gain from it.
Yeah, so it's seeping out.
Yeah. And then it's spilling on the ridges, and then...
Yeah, okay. So very much how you manage the land first. Yeah. Okay. And then you get to that point, what would be the next step?
Then your biology and your minerals. And probably both together, I feel. You can't do anything just one or the other. It's sort of got to be a bit of both, or you've got to build a house for them to live in. So it might be a little bit of minerals and then a little bit of biology, or vice versa, depending on what you're trying to achieve and what your soil type is. But I think little bits of everything is better than lots of one thing.
And plants as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So when you talk about biology and minerals, are you talking multi-species and biofertilised together, or?
Yeah, so we sowed 250 hectares of multi-species crops this year, all from down under covers, and then we put Nutrisoil, compost extract, and a little bit of seed start from NTS on it, and a little bit of fish, and that with a 50 to 80 kilos of guano down the boot. And then as soon as it's up and I can get a foliar on it, I will put a biofert that I've made on farm with some compost extract, some fish and some molasses, a bit of Nutrisoil again, just to try and keep those bricks up and keep the plant as healthy as I can. So any sign of insect damage or fungi attack or anything, I'll just try and get some nutrition out there. Just a biofert I always use fish, molasses, compost extract as a base, and I just vary the rates depending on how much I've got or how much I need it to go for the budget more than anything, and then your biofert to go with it for the actual mineral. So what the plant needs, just a multi-mineral, like nothing specific at the moment. That's sort of this year's, the next 12 months project is to really tailor those bioferts for the plant, what we actually need.
Yeah. So you're putting those on multi-species. You're coating the seed first with your biological primer, and then your multi-species doing the foliar. Are you doing it across your other natives as well that are already existing?
Yeah, so we're doing, we haven't put any biofert out on any of the natives, but we've put a fair bit of compost extract, a little bit of Nutrisoil, a bit of fish and molasses.
Yeah.
Yeah. This year will be, more biofertilizer and a little bit less of the others. So we'll probably cut them in half and then put some more minerals out just to try and speed up that, like the calcium function and the sulfur deficiencies and stuff like that.
Yeah. So tell us about your bioferts. Where did you learn to make them first? And just essentially, the time involved, what drives you to make them and not buy them, those type. Yeah.
Like getting all the seed from Grant Sims was really inspirational. Like he's an inspiring guy, and seeing like what he's done and how he's achieved it, and then going to see Paddo's place up in Mara and what he's doing, that sort of really inspired me to make it. Then Vic No-Till had a little workshop last year, just a really basic one at Fraser Pogue's place, and I was keen on doing it, and that sort of really kicked me into gear. So I just started after that. Then I did a course with David Hardwick, Soil and Food, and then I've done a second one with him online, just a basic one. Next step is probably like the microscope and actually understanding what microbes you're brewing, and are they lasting to the end, or are they all dying, or which ones do we want and which ones don't we want. So someone needs to have a bit more advanced biofert course. Everyone's sort of itching for it, but no one's holding one yet, I don't think.
Yeah, so the biofert courses at the moment are how to make it, but what your thirst is now is it actually what I thought I was making?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
There's no quality control with it.
Exactly. Yeah, like I can put a whole heap of things into a drum and hope for the best.
Yeah.
It off gases and does all the right things, but to be able to see it at the end would be nice to actually know what you're looking for and
I can see why that course is hard to put together.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I'm working with David at the moment in quality assurance, and we're getting DNA testing on all of, the Nutrisol and the extract and the worm castings, and he's getting it all in the bioferts. And, we spent a whole day on it, and then all of a sudden he just goes, but it's only 30%. And I was totally deflated. And he's like, it is the best of the testing that we can get
at the moment.
At the moment, yeah. So it would be putting that together, plus it would be putting together your tissue, sap tests, soil tests, foliar applying, seeing what works. Like, it's a huge, mammoth job to put together.
Yeah.
Someone needs to do it.
Yeah.
It's not me, and I don't know if David's got time.
It's a big job.
Vic No-Till. I've got my eye on Vic No-Till. You guys all need to collaborate.
Yeah, there's enough information.
I know, for all of the tissue and sap tests that you guys have, I've got my eye on you guys for doing that.
Righto. Yeah. I'll put that. I'll put that at the next group
Vic
meeting.
No-Till, yeah. Yeah, no, that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it is what happens. Do you grow bigger root systems?
Yes.
Do you grow bigger biomass?
Yeah.
Are you changing your soil? Are you building your carbon? Are you building your organic matter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The biofert definitely lifted us, like in bricks, from not using it to using it between 6 and 8 points on the refractometer. So that was a pretty good indicator for me that it's doing something right, and I've obviously brewed it right, and it has worked. And that was just David's basic multi-mineral peat recipe, I think. We've done mainly his basic just multi-mineral recipes. At the moment, we've done 12,000 litres this year. We'll do, hopefully try and do some more individual stuff in the following.
So if you think you had to go and buy 12,000 litres of a trace mineral nutrient mix, like, the savings must be pretty big.
Yeah, even with labour, I think we're probably still well under half, probably a third. Like, I've worked it out, and like the cost of making it isn't that great, really. Like, it's a little bit time consuming, but if it's a bit too hot or something one day, it's a great job to do in the shed in the shade. And
it's nice to have different things to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's fun. Like, it's a bit messy at times, but it's always a bit of fun.
You've got a bit of molasses up there we had an accident with before you've got to clean up.
Yeah. Molasses is always the biggest problem.
So what type of amounts are you putting in these bioferts compared to what you would have been putting out if it was a soil mineral application?
So we're putting out 10 litres of the biofert per hectare, which has got you got 25 kilos of phosphorus in a 1,000 litres. So I was meant to do the maths on that.
25, so I'm not going to do it accurately. So 25 kilos in 1,000 litres, and you're only putting out 10 litres per hectare.
Yeah.
So not even a spreader puts out 25 because you go to 30 kilos.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's tiny.
It is tiny amount.
Yeah.
And that's just the phosphorus. And the trace elements are tiny and minute amounts, really. But as a granular, like, the typical is 100 kilos at least. You know, if you're in conventional, more is better. Right?
Yeah. Okay. So if someone wanted to learn about these bioferments, where would they go?
Go on to David Hardwick's website, Soil Land Food, and look up his course. It's very he's a pretty good teacher, really. He's very pretty basic for your basic course. It's perfect. Just to get your basic principles and systems right is probably the most important thing. Like your cleanliness and your actual system of doing it is what he pushes, and I think that's probably definitely the most important thing.
Yeah. Do you on that biofert Facebook page?
Yeah,
that's got lots of stuff.
Super interesting. Yeah. There's always a new recipe on there that I try and mimic.
Yeah. So there is lots of stuff out there, but it's not something you can sit down and go, well, I think it's a building process.
Definitely.
And then you get more comfortable with it, and then you can get a bit more creative with it.
You just got to take one step at a time. Yeah, definitely.
So
just start with the basic.
Go to a course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because you can read the book, but then when you see, having to put, I'm gonna really bake the straw in the bottle so that keeps out the pathogens and the bubbling and
exactly.
You kind of need to see it.
You do
yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like we're building we could write a book here now. We've got all the steps, Callum Lawson's steps to regenerative agriculture. So multi-species, that kind of blurs into soil health, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You would have learned about that in general, conferences.
Definitely. Yeah. Through Grant and Vic No-Till and podcasts, I'm a real sucker for a podcast. So I've learned a hell of a lot listening to yours and Graham Sates and John Kemp. It's full on, but I mean, there's so much information out there. It's easy access. It's hard to retain it all. Sometimes you can listen to it 5 times, but
it sparks, doesn't it? And there'll be something you'll just, even if you took away one thing from one of those John Kemp podcasts, you can't take away everything.
No way. No chance.
So John Kemp's very technical. Graham's sake can be
very
as well.
technical. Yeah.
But I think the podcast I do is very much farmers' stories and the hands-on. So you've got 3 different angles.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they're all important
out
too.
There. Yeah. And I think RCS have got a podcast going as well.
Yeah, actually, I did hear that one about
it. Yeah, so they're good. They're really great. So the multi-species, 10 years ago, they were so incomprehensible, weren't they? The multi-species. You were like, what?
Ryegrass and clover. Yeah. You might put a brassica in there if you're a bit out there.
Yeah. But it's very common now. I mean, it was very common to have 2 or 3. Yeah. But this suite of larger amounts. Yeah.
And learning, just from experience, more at the start isn't always better. So you've got to build the system. So you start basic, 5 to 10, and then go up after that. Earn that right, just one step in front of the other. Yeah. Simple to start, and then just slowly build it up. You can go to the super mix straight away, and half of it comes up. So you've wasted half the money. You could have grown just as much a crop, and a fair bit less just with a basic one.
Yeah.
And you've got to learn what your own soil is good at growing too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've seen, clover crops just oversown with oats, and the change is huge.
Massive,
And then you go the next one. Yeah, it's just building, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So multi-species crops, bioferts, and then you go your worm products and your compost products. Tell me why, how, what you do there.
So we've got just a stainless steel milk vat, and it's got just a agitator on the top. We put about 100 kilos in to 1,000 litres of water, and then that goes out at
100 kilos of the compost?
100 kilos. So we go 60 of the Nutrisoil castings.
Not the liquid, yeah.
And then the Wirelad, we use their refined compost out of a bulker bag as well, 40 kilos of that. And then that goes out as a compost extract at 5 kilos a hectare equivalent.
Yeah, okay. So it's not your total water source. You're putting it in water.
I'm just trying to get it mobile.
Yep.
And the biology off it, and then I put it out accordingly. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. So you're mixing the bioferts with the worm liquid and the extracts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then fish, Nutrisoil and molasses on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a bit of fun today with the worm castings. So we've got the worm castings now to 3 mil for the toe and fert. We'll talk about, you've got a toe and fert, which is amazing, and we'll talk about the toe and fert. But the castings were getting blocked at 10 mil.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
It's good that we've got it now down to the 3 mil.
I did try that a few times and blocked it a fair few times.
Yeah, I didn't even have it on the website. I knew we had an issue that the castings weren't great for extracts. But now that we've got it to 3 mil, we'll let people know about it.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Like just seeing that just then, like the dispersion of them on the leaf, on
that was the exciting thing,
tiniest little linseed and clover leaves.
Yep.
Like
those little worm casts were just sitting on the leaf, sticking there, and you think the microbial factory that's just around those castings. So I'm so keen to see someone with red-legged earth mite. Hopefully you get red-legged earth mite. And
hopefully we do.
We can put
do a trial of it.
This extract out, and I really think it's going to have
definitely
an amazing.
Most definitely.
Yeah, just to see it sitting on that leaf was pretty amazing to get it out. But the toe and fert is a pretty special machine to do that.
Yeah, they've got the market. There's no other product really out there that low pressure, so it doesn't harm the biology. It's a nice big trash pump, so you can handle that bigger particle. Like you could handle up to a 5 mil particle and keep it in suspension and put nearly anything through it. Very, very powerful tool.
Yeah, and this was my question when I came, and I thought I knew what you were going to say, and you did say it. But with the toe and fert, I mean, the ease of that is that you can put anything in. So you can actually put your copper sulfate and your boron and your zinc in, and go out and apply it. But you're biofermenting it first. Why are you doing that?
Well, the cost is probably the biggest thing. But when you bioferment a raw mineral like that, you're putting it, attaching it to a carbon molecule, so it's more plant available. So the plant doesn't have to work for it; it just gets it, and it's in there rather than it having to go through 3 processes to get it. So therefore, it's a more efficient way of putting it out. I see. There's no science behind that, but just what I've learned, that's definitely.
Well, I think there is. Like you could convert, if you do something as a foliar fertilizer, for example, urea, it is 10 times more powerful.
Yeah.
There's science behind that.
Yeah, that is definitely the truth.
So I imagine all of the trace minerals and nutrients would be very similar if you get it
very much so.
Fine, biofermented, so broken down with microbes, with your carbon source.
Yeah, and you're putting out microbes with it as well. So, it's also, there's beneficials there as well as the mineral.
Yep. And then you would be comparing, instead of putting out 2 kilos per hectare as a mineral, you're probably putting out like 60 grams. Grams. It's crazy. And just the same results, and probably even more quick. Like the results would be more
quick to respond. Definitely. In the plant, and that's where you need it, like, because that's where your money is. Like it will feed down into the soil, but the plant is what whether it be grain or for the cows or the sheep, like that is where the money's at. So if the plant's healthier, then it's dollars in your pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. And building more of that organic matter.
Absolutely.
Which is your goal. Yeah, okay. The extracts is what we just talked about then. So how do you actually make the extract? You just bubble it?
So we just stir it, and then it runs through a trash pump just at idle, trying to filter out the large particles, and then it goes into the tow and fert. So it's agitated for at least 2 hours. I found anything less than that, you don't get enough biology off it, and the colour changes.
Yeah.
Like an hour is sort of a bit murky, and after like 2 hours, it's like a golden brown. Yeah. I just found the better results with that.
Yeah.
And you're not throwing half of it out because there's a lot more come off.
All up in suspension.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then you've put all these together in your tow and fert. So you've got your biofertilizers and the mix that you talked about, fish extract.
And molasses.
Yeah. You've got your worm liquid. You can basically look at a tissue test and then go out and
tailor-make it.
Yeah. That's the flexibility.
Yeah.
Because it's often over-application of nutrients is the bigger problem.
It'll lock something else up.
Under. Mm-hmm. It's a very efficient way of farming. It sounds time-consuming.
It can be, but at the same time, you're making yourself more efficient. And growing a healthier plant means more money. Yeah, more carbon.
Yeah. Okay. And then my next step is you joined. I know you've been with Vic No-Till for a long time because I see you there at all of the events, but now you're on the committee.
Yeah, so an opportunity came up a few months ago. They advertised they wanted a couple of new board members, and I always sort of thought, gee, that'd be a pretty cool thing to do. Seeing all those guys and what they've achieved and how they're growing like some of the best crops probably in the world, like I thought that'd be pretty cool to be part of. So I thought, why not have a go at it? And I was very lucky and feel very privileged to be part of that and working alongside those guys and learning off them, and hopefully I can contribute something back towards them as well. But,
well, you're going to be writing this book on bioferts and sap and tissue testing, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'll need a bit of help with that one. But yeah, I'm sure we can get something going.
Yeah,
sure.
But Vic No-Till, they have so much
knowledge in all those farmers, and you don't even see half of it, but they're so willing to share and welcome you onto their place and like ask any question and they'll answer it, and it'll be an honest answer. It won't be some sales pitch on it. Like it's all like they've learnt the hard way and they're doing it to be profitable, which at the end that is the end of the game, really. You can't keep going if you're not profitable.
No, not at all. You've got to stay profitable, otherwise these good farmers won't be out there doing what they're doing. What about have you been able to eliminate pesticide, or even if you were using it, or herbicide use?
Yeah, so initially when I sort of came back to the farm in 2012, we started experimenting with a few different crops of brassicas and legumes, and we had a fair bit of red-legged earth mite pressure and then aphid pressure and cabbage moths and you name it, we sort of got it. And then we were getting diseases, and everyone's answer was always to go the insecticide, and while you're doing it, you may as well put a fungicide in. And it never sat well with me, anything like that. Mum sort of brought us up pretty well that clean food was good, so that's been sort of stuck with me for life. And anytime I even suggested it, Mum and Dad would both look at me like, what are you doing? Like, why would you even think about that? And then that really made me second guess it again, rather than just listening to the sales rep or an agronomist saying, you have to do this, otherwise you're going to lose the crop. So I did it a couple of times and it just didn't work for me. So I just cut it out altogether. And then when I did a bit more reading and research, just putting fish, molasses, compost extract and Nutrisoil out one day, changing the bricks from 6 to 14 overnight, and the insects were gone. I'm like, well, that sold me. Like, that was it.
Yeah. So you can deal with this working with nature as opposed to...
Absolutely. And I feel like you can probably get it up even higher if you use the biofert or the mineral that it was deficient in. Like, that rules a fungicide or an insecticide out altogether. That's a pretty powerful tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's doing good rather than bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the future with your tissue tests, or if you are using SAP tests, how do you see that you're going to make these decisions? Is it going to be do the test, then go out there, or do you feel like you're going to make some type of database of your own?
Yeah, so it'll have to go onto a spreadsheet, and we'll have to have all the minerals made up pretty well ready to go, because you can't just brew it. Like, you can collate them, but yeah, you've got to brew them early and while it's warm. Otherwise, the bugs don't work. So that's going to be a big summer job. So you have it all there ready to go. Do your SAP test and go, right, I'm deficient in this. Let's put it out. And then, that goes on this year's record. And then you do it again once you've done it and see if it's actually moved it.
Yeah. And do you think on that record you're going to then have a space? Yeah, has it? So you'll have your deficiency, what you put out, and then did it work?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Mm.
And then every one of those is a big, powerful tool for the next year or even later in the season.
You'd nearly have to also say how much rainfall you'd had, and the time of year it was.
Which we've got a rolling rainfall, and AgriWeb does a rolling rainfall for us. So yeah. It's not a hard job, Callum. You can get that done. No, definitely not. Yeah, I might need someone to type
coordinating it all, isn't it? Yeah. But I see that's where this is all going. What about seeds? Are you putting seeds out through the Toe and Fert?
Yeah, we've done a little bit. Not so much at Avenel, but we have put a few turnips and brassicas and some clover out, and that has had pretty good success. Like, I wouldn't say it's every seed's germinated straight away, but later in the season, you do see them coming up. So or the next rain, or not straight away, but yeah, it does. They do pop up.
So as you improve that soil, those seeds are still going.
Exactly, they're just sitting there dormant.
To be there.
Yeah, they're often going out in a compost extract, so they've got all the biology there just to sit there until that moment is correct, and then up they go.
And the seed, I've heard this before, is that the seed is actually biology, because there's so many microbes in the seed as well.
That would make sense, yeah.
So even if it's not germinating, you're actually putting out a little ball of biology as well.
Yeah.
So
100%.
if it's low cost, you wouldn't get too upset if it didn't germinate.
No, exactly. Yeah.
And organic matter, be building your organic matter.
Yeah.
Food for the microbes. Yeah. Okay.
That all helps.
It does.
Yeah.
All right. So I think what we've done here is we've just gone through the steps of how you actually get to the point of regenerating a soil. What I haven't asked, so you've done your multi-species mixes. Are you going to continue doing those in this trying to get to your goal of increasing organic matter and carbon? Or is there a process where you'll do some renovation, move to the next paddock? How are you going to manage that?
So I'm sort of working on a 3-year cycle at the moment, and that could extend to 5, but the initial 2 to 3 years is a priming phase. So we've just put out annuals for the first 2, and if we can double crop it, if there's an opportunity, we will. So if we can do some C4s, like summer grasses and sunflowers and a summer mix, if we can get at least one of those in, is a real benefit. Even if they don't do massively well, like a green plant in summer is going to help prime something. So the multi-species are a tool to prime the soil and get it ready for the perennials. So the 3rd year we'll start introducing chicory and plantain and probably lucerne, and then the next year we'll oversow some grasses as well as a bit more clover and some legumes. Yeah, just keep priming it until we sort of I'd like to say 5 years is max, but you're always probably going to be topping it up every so often if you need to, or hopefully the native stuff will come through and quorum sensing will take over and the good stuff will start coming on its own.
Observation and take it as it comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each paddock's going to be different. And it's managed similarly, but not all identically. So everything's different.
Yeah. And then you talked also, it was probably when we were talking a bit earlier, you wanted to increase your nitrogen, which increasing your organic matter would, but also your legume content.
Yeah, legume content. Yeah, so definitely trying to increase that clover and even sowing some peas and vetch into some maybe re-established pasture dry and just trying to get some extra nitrogen into, and that'll help build the organic matter as well. So that'd be, I had that suggested to me the other day, and I think that's a very wise idea.
Yeah.
We'll give it a go in early next year.
Carbon project, is that in the future or?
Potentially. We'll just have to wait and see. I think there is definitely a spot for it, and I think we're going the right way about it. I'd love to just get a baseline, even if we didn't go with the project, because I feel like we're going in the right direction. That's a hard one. Yeah, it's a very sort of touchy space, and the government's got well too involved and made it a lot more challenging than it needs to be, I think.
Yeah, okay, just watch that space.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay. Well, we need to go out and test that bricks.
We do, yes.
So it was 12 on the oat plant.
Yes.
12 and... No, it was 14.
Yeah, 14.
It was 14
on the oats.
And it was hazy, so you had good mineral movement.
Yeah.
Even when it was so dry out there. So let's go see if that application of BioFert, what did we put in there?
We put your new 3 mil castings.
3 mil castings.
Some molasses. Nutrisoil and some fish.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Callum.
No worries. Thank you very much.
This was a great, I think, it just gives some really good steps of where to first when someone wonders, how am I going to regenerate this land? And there are just easy steps. And it's the courses, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
You could just do this suite of courses that we talked about.
But just
get into the community of people that you need to.
The right attitude and
absolutely the right attitude.
You've got to surround yourself with people that are similar thinking, because if you surround yourself with people the same thinking, you're just going to go back there. I found and I've still got friends that are very conventional, but I think it's really important to try and surround yourself with that positive attitude and people doing a similar thing to you. It's easier to talk about, and it's probably one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself, I think.
Yeah. You even spoke earlier about you love people to challenge you.
Yeah, I love a challenge.
Yeah. So having people that might think differently is important as well.
Absolutely, because it makes me think differently too. Yeah, super important.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I hope other people do too.
Hopefully.
And let's go check this bricks.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Please follow the Biological Farming Roundtable podcast. Share it with your friends and networks. I'm Nicola Maddock and I work at Nutrisoil, a liquid biological fertiliser made from a big worm farm whose purpose is to empower farmers to produce life-enriching